Okay, first of all, this is a prototype I did for a much larger mascot head. But it's kind of like what you're doing. Okay, so if I was going to make this into a puppet, first of all, I want to start figuring out the mouth plate. Okay, it's just pinned here. So I take a piece of paper and I slide it into the mouth so that it's kind of like this. I'm having to do this upside down, kind of backwards, so. Okay. Now what I want to do is, in fact, I think what I'm going to do is take some of my pins just to hold it in place for a second. I'm going to take a pin. We'll take and shove it into the foam there at the corner of the mouth. And he's kind of spreading out, so I might even squeeze his snout together a little bit. And flip it over so you can see. Another one at that corner of the mouth. And then we'll take our last pin, looking from the side, so I can gauge where that tip is, and I'll push that one in. Okay, so now that paper's kind of held in place, and I can take and trace. I'm all the way back at that corner. Trace around. Alright. Okay. Take the pins out. And now you see, whoops, I missed a little bit. Doesn't really matter because since it's kind of not symmetrical, what I do, because what I'm kind of looking at is from tip of the nose to here as far as measurements, and then from side to side. Okay, so what I can do is I can look and match up my corner marks. Fold the paper in half, and then can't really show this on the camera, but I have my light over here, and I'm going to shine my light behind it so I can see how my lines are matching up. And this one on this side comes out a little bit further than this one on this side. But I think I like this line the best, so I'm going to choose it and take my scissors. Okay. And then good. And again, this and this are my important measurements that I was looking for. So I'm going to start here and start cutting, and I might give me a little bit of extra just to kind of split the difference between the two lines on each side. I'm going to come back to what my width is. right there. Now if I open it up, here's my top mouth plate. Okay. And if we look at it, inside set into our mouth, I think my pattern's a little bit off. That's all right. Then it fits. Right? Okay. Now here's where the difference in how you glue foam, how it can affect your puppet. You would actually want to do this also for the bottom. Let me check something right here. My puppet might be good because I'm wanting to come to, this is kind of my point I'm wanting to come to, even though everything's kind of rounded off. So I'm kind of matching up and we're doing okay. So let's go ahead and take some foam. And I know you're going to say, wait, but a mouth plate isn't made out of the foam. Yeah, I know. But right now, we're just trying to get you a shape of the head that you want. And you'll see why I'm doing this here in a moment. Okay, now let's see how this foam piece fits in here. Okay, so here's where I was talking about there's different ways to glue it in. We could glue it in like this, to where this edge is glued to the top of our mouth plate. Not really a mouth plate. Or we could take it and glue it on the inside, which I think you're going to want to do on yours because you have jowls that you're creating. You could glue it in like this. Can you see that? So that this edge is on the inside of this edge. There you've got your little bit of jowl. Now if you're going to do this, you might have to trim off some more of this just so that it doesn't push your snout out. You want to keep looking at your shape and what you want ultimately in your shape. So you could do that right there. Okay. Or here's that third option, is that you take your foam and glue them end to end. You put glue here and glue here and keep gluing all the way around like that. And what that's going to do is once it gets glued, it's going to wrap this edge over and make it soft like that. So here's my suggestion to you. Is you want to create jowls, but you want your little dimple on the side. So if you glued this in, and again, depending on your ultimate look at the end, you can change how deep you do this or how little you have as far as an overlap there. So if you were to start gluing from the tip and glue around to here, but then when you got to the side where you cut your little thumb mark, switch and glue edge to edge. Okay, let's see if I can use pins to illustrate this. Again, this isn't going to end up being exactly how yours is, simply because this is a different pattern, and it was a prototype meant for a big body character head, not for a smaller puppet. I was just trying to see what my shape would end up being. Although this does make me think maybe I should just turn this guy into a puppet. Okay. I'm going to start easing back so that I can get to my edge. And now here, I'm going to glue end to end. I'm not sure how well this is going to work with pins. See, this is also, by showing you the use of the pins, so to speak, this is a way for you to test things before you actually glue them. Okay, so this then gets glued into the other side. Well, let's just keep pinning. Okay, well, this kind of gives you the idea of, hopefully, of what I'm talking about, since it doesn't actually glue. That's going to curl that under a little bit. Both sides, it's going to create a dimple for me. Now, in my case, again, pattern's a little bit different, so it's not going to do exactly what yours would do. But that compressed foam is going to create a little cheek bump. Okay? And again, you have your mouth open as a default. Oh, why I did this in foam. Okay. Now you have this in foam, right? So if you took the same pattern and made it in your cardboard as a mouth plate, because with the mouth plate you do two of these, one on each side. Okay, we'll do a quickie fake here. You take your fabric or whatever to create your hinge. Voila, fabric. I put just a little bit of a gap there. Lots of times when I make a mouth plate, what I do is actually take my two pieces and stack them on top of each other like that, and then I glue my fabric or whatever that I'm using as a hinge onto my cardboards. And that usually, once you open it up, especially if your cardboard or your plastic's a little thick, it creates that little gap for you so that you have a nice hinge so that it'll close like that. Okay, so now then when you have your mouth plate, if you were to take this hard mouth plate, of course on the inside you'd probably cover it with some black felt or black fabric or whatever. You might even cover this part with some fabric just so it keeps it from... If you were to take this mouth plate and glue it in, or you could even, if you've covered this with fleece, if you've covered your foam with fleece and you've covered this with fabric and left it kind of loose at the end, you could stitch this into the fabric right here, or you could just glue it in right along here. Okay? If you were to glue that into your foam right along here, what that's going to do is that's going to create a little pocket, and there's no way for me to show it, a little pocket right here that your hand can slip into when it's in the puppet. Because you had mentioned about stuffing the head with some foam to help kind of restrict. Well, see, if that was a little glove pocket my hand's in, that's going to help hold your hand in place when it's inside the puppet,